Meet Olivia. She made $45,000 in 60 days after we transitioned her Airbnb investing course from live launches to evergreen. In this video, we talk about how she went from making $5K a month to multiple five figures by using Instagram organic to scale her now evergreen course business. If you're a content creator, course creator, or you sell digital products, this is all you need to create a killer evergreen offer and social media sales system in 2024. Let's dive in. Okay, Olivia, we have so much to talk about today with literally you joining CCA and us getting on a call and you being like, I don't know if it's the right time. And then we took a break from each other, maybe like 30 days. And then we're back to DMing each other and you're like, I think I'm ready. Now we're here. You signed up in December, 60 days into CCA. You have collected over $45,000 in cash collected for your business. I'm so excited to highlight your success and talk more about your stories. So welcome to the show and tell the world who you are.
Amazing. I know it's crazy how everything worked out. But basically my name's Olivia Tati. I used to be an engineer, but kind of broke out of the matrix too there and became a full-time real estate investor, an interior designer, and now also a real estate investing coach, which is like my signature program. And what I'm just so incredibly passionate about is helping like young women. And I say young women, I consider like old women to be young. So just women in general get started investing in real estate, taking control of their lives and living their dream lives, but in a practical manner through real estate investing, which is going to help them for so many, many years to come.
I love this. And I'm just passionate about real estate. So I'm excited to even just have this conversation too. I feel like every time I talk to you, I learn more and more about real estate. So I love just like watching your content, side note. But in addition to that, I'd love to know a little bit more. And if you could share openly about when you first joined CCA, the way you were doing it before versus the way that you do it now. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about that?
Totally. So it's so funny. At first, I had launched my program in November and I really didn't know where this was going or what was happening. I guess just, let's even start from the beginning. So I actually came up with this idea while I was like traveling for 3 months in Portugal. It was kind of like my Eat, Pray, Love trip where I was like, I know I want to create a community. I know I want to start a coaching program. I've always been so passionate about, helping young women. And that's actually when I first found your content. And so I had signed up for a call in Portugal, but I was very much like, my brain's all over the place. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still living in Portugal. I think I hopped on a call with one of your sales girls, but it just wasn't the right time. Like I didn't even know what I was doing. Right? So then fast forward a couple of months, I hopped on a call with you. And this was right when I was still just kind of creating my program and testing it. Like I was just doing let me throw it out into the world and see what happens. Originally, the way that I was planning on doing it was just passive course, webinar funnel to passive course, never hopping on calls with anyone, all of that stuff. But what I had realized from the get-go was that if you don't have a big following and you haven't already kind of like created the momentum behind it before, you're not going to get any sales. And so I'd already decided from the beginning that I was going to start hopping on sales calls, but I still was like, okay, let me just do an 8-week boot camp, do a launch and see what happens. So I did a launch. It went like decently. I did like 5K in cash and 15K in revenue. But then I was just like, okay, well, what's next? Do I launch again? That was exhausting. Like, what do I do? So I kind of just got to this point where I was stuck. I was like, okay, cool. I enjoy doing this. I love hopping on calls with my girls. I also realized like 8 weeks for a real estate bootcamp just isn't enough for people to really see that transformation. Real estate is kind of a thing that does take a little bit more time to get going because you are dependent on the market. So I ended up switching it to a 6-month program. And I only switched it to a 6-month program when I found you. So I'd started listening to your podcast and just kind of really diving deeper into your content. I think I binged like 10 of your episodes in one day. And I was like, okay, this girl knows what she's doing. And that's when I think I commented on one of your posts and you commented back. And I was just like, okay, tell me more. Blah, 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 blah. You're like, well, are you good to sign up? And I said, yep. Okay, we're in. I'm in. And just kind of went from there.
I love that. And there's a few key points that I really want to point out here is like, one, you really walked yourself to this program. And I think this is something important that I teach in CCA where it's like, yes, I can teach you the follow-up strategies and the customer journey funnel. And ultimately, people are going to join your program on their timeline. And I think you're the perfect example of that, where it's like, we got on that first sales call, which you didn't end up signing up. And instead of me just being like, oh, she didn't sign up, it's like a quote failure because you take sales calls now. So maybe you felt that before too. And I'm sure people listening can feel that way. I was like, no, my door is always open. And this is something that we talk about a lot. It's like customer journey. So like just breaking that fourth wall for people is that this was your customer journey, is that you're on your own path. And I think as like salespeople, when we have to wear the sales hat, we forget that everyone's on their own timeline, and it so rarely has to do with us, and it has everything to do with the other person, like what they're going through personally. Maybe they have some stuff going on that we don't even know about. Like you're investing in a house and you're moving from Portugal. Like you're going through all these different things. So I absolutely love how you talked about how like you were 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And then when you were ready, you're like, I'm all in. Let's do this thing. So from the minute you joined, I think the first thing that we talked about when you joined, I believe it was one of our group calls, was all about how you were ready to switch the model. So really want to talk about the model. So you were like kind of pulled into the marketing of like live webinar and automated funnel and like make money while you sleep. And I've been there, girl. I went through those webinars. I went through those courses. Like I know the feeling. And then for me, I mean, just on a personal note, I had like trauma from that. I did a 2,000 person webinar and I had one person sign up for my program in 2022. And that's when I realized that this model and the CCA method is the secret. So talk to us about that. You joined in December. You had only made 5K cash collect at that point, which is amazing, but you knew you were kind of like sitting on a gold mine. So what happened from that moment that you joined CCA?
I think honestly, just seeing how you did it, I was so inspired by it. And like, I think we hopped on either we were talking in one of the group pools, but I remember you saying that, you know, the part that I love is the coaching part, right? Like that's the part I love, being the person that is able to help kind of people through that and through their problems and breaking that down for them. And I realized for me, like, that's exactly what I love too. Like, and I actually upped my coaching calls to twice a week now too. And I feel like, you know, it's going to end up expanding from there and growing into something really big and beautiful. But yeah, I think it was just really seeing how passionate you were and how different, like you're probably the same. I've invested so much money in coaching programs and this and that. And like something that I always noticed was such a big issue was the accountability portion. So I know you guys do this a lot just with the onboarding calls, following up with people every 30 days, just kind of seeing where they're at, how they're doing. And that's something I like really took to heart. And when I think, and it's so funny, when I think back to what I used to host, like a girls, this was in college, a girls fitness group. And it was like an accountability group basically. And I was like the ringleader who'd make sure everyone was accountable. So essentially taking that same model. Yeah. Like I just love doing that. And it's so funny because it literally has just come back full circle. It's exactly what I do within my coaching program. And I think really just I think the biggest difference was you were really so passionate and so invested in other people's success, where a lot of the time you do kind of get into these coaching programs and it's just about the money. And don't get me wrong, the money is important and all of that. But for me, it really is like the transformation. Like when I see my students win, I'm like, frick, yes. And in an 8-week boot camp, like it's so hard to see that transformation, you know?
I love that. So it sounds like you tried this one model and you tested it and you're like, this is working okay, but it's not scalable. And we kind of caught you at that point where you're like, I have a decision to make here. And I think before you joined, you were like going to grow and scale this boot camp. And we kind of just put our foot on the brakes and we're like, we need to change the model because you're not going to be able to sustain this. There might be operational complexity because maybe people don't see results after 8 weeks. And that doesn't have to do with you. It has to do with your marketing market. And this is what I think CCA does really well as a program is it meets people where they're at and it helps them build something that is greater than them and is really focused on the consumer. And I think that's what you're talking about here is like building a really good product. It sounds like was your biggest takeaway from being a part of a program like CCA because you see how many touch points we have. You see our live calls, you see the community and things like that. And it sounds like what you were really looking for is like, how do I build a badass program? And it's almost like the money was a byproduct of that. What do you think?
100%. And I also very much went into, like, I don't need the money from the program to survive, right? Like I very much went into it with a release and we're going to just make this the best that we can, give it our all. And the money we make from it is amazing. But at the end of the day, like what really is fueling me is seeing this transformation within and like making a really freaking fantastic program. That's a no-brainer. And I think that's also like, because something you do wonderfully is you do help us, with sales scripts and all of that, because that was some structure that I also needed. But it was just also building that confidence of creating a badass program that I was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Of course people will sign up, right? Versus kind of building something that you like and, you don't really know if people are going to get the most value out of this. But I'm like, in a 6-month container with me, like, yeah, if you put the work in, you're going to thrive.
I love that. And thank you so much for sharing and for the beautiful words and the beautiful compliment. So I'm curious to know from here, you've clearly had so much success, right? Like 45K in this short amount of time, cash collected, and this being an additional revenue stream for you, like not even being like the mainstream, which is awesome. My question to you is like, what were your fears before joining? Did you have any?
I don't think I necessarily had any fears. I guess maybe it was like the initial work to put in, right? Because originally I'd kind of come into it with like build the course once, passive funnel, all of that stuff. So it was like, okay, how much work am I actually going to be putting in each day, right? And like that being said, I always say this to people, if it's in alignment, it doesn't feel like work. It feels so fun. You want to keep doing it. You want to keep researching it. And that's pretty much what happened. Like my whole life now revolves around this coaching program and I freaking love it, And I'm even, taking scaling back on some other businesses that I have and putting like a lot of my attention into this because I just love it so much. And I know where it can go and I know what can stem from this. Right. So I think, I think the fear sometimes is just like how much work it's going to take, but you have to kind of make that internal shift within you. It's like, is this something you really want for yourself? Is this something you believe in? If this is something you can get behind? Because when you get behind it, you're going to do the work and it's not going to feel like work,
I love that. And in your eyes, what would you say are the results that you've seen? It could be the financial results. It could be emotional. Like, I want to know in your own words, what would you say was your return on investment for investing in this program?
Yeah. And so that's a funny thing. Like you've got the cash side, of course, but for me, it was honestly tapping back into like the manifestation side of things and the like bigger picture. So it's funny because now I'm including that side of things in my coaching program. And it's like, even just from a couple of sessions of that with some of my students, I've just seen them, like skyrocket. So I think, especially in the real estate investing space, so much of it is just strategy. It's like these are the numbers. This is what you got to do, blah, 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 blah. And so little is focused on the mindset behind it. And so that is something that like I was able to tap back into just by taking your program and seeing how you did it. And I was like, wait, this is gold. Like, this is so good. So, and it's helped me like think and dream bigger too, right? Because originally when I created the boot camp, I think I was like, okay, cool, like maybe an extra 100K a year, whatever. I'm like, no, this is definitely $1 million program. I could take this to 10 million. There's so many different things that can stem from this.
This is so inspiring to hear that It sounds like when you got really tapped into like your why and your purpose for building a program, that actually catapulted you into your next level. Because now that you say this, when we had our initial conversation, I feel like you did view it like that, like just keeping it real with you. You were just like, oh yeah, I'll make some money on the side. Versus now you're like, this could be a $10 million product, which it absolutely can be.
Yeah. No, completely. And yeah, and I just wasn't, it's so funny. Even my like vision boards and things have changed over time just by joining CCA. Like I literally remember I was at home over the holidays, like over Christmas, because we didn't have any calls that week. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to blast through like literally the whole course that week, like all the recordings. And I was like, I know what I'm doing. This is awesome. Changed everything. My whole like idea of what was possible just completely shifted.
I love that. So what was it like being in the community, like being around other creator entrepreneurs? What was that like for you?
Totally. Yeah. It's so wonderful just because everyone's going through similar things. Right. And I also like that, everyone does things differently. You've kind of laid out the strategy, but just because like the full strategy is your way of doing it, you can everyone takes different tweaks and different things that work for them. And you're very straight up with people. This is kind of what's worked for me. But if you don't enjoy doing that, then don't do it. Like find the way that works for you. Right. And I think seeing how everyone has done it in such a different way has been such a beautiful thing to be around. And it kind of gives everyone the permission to do it their own way, but using your like course and program as the foundation.
Amazing. And my final question to you on that is, if someone's on the fence of joining, what would you say to them? You're talking to them face to face. What would you say to them?
Just join. I mean, listen to yourself, like obviously, and it's kind of, we kind of talked about my customer journey. During that first call, I wasn't ready. I'm glad I didn't join then. I'm glad I joined when I did because I was ready to go and was able to like really take in the full experience. But like, within yourself, if it's right and if it's ready. So listen to yourself, listen to your gut. And if you think that this is the right thing for you, just join. Like there's nothing stopping you. And like if you take inspired action, even if you don't follow the exact path, you're taking right steps in the right direction. And that's all that matters.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Olivia, for coming on the show, sharing your truth, your story, your message. This was so inspiring. Is there anything else you want to share before we hop off?
No, just that you're fabulous. Keep doing what you're doing. Literally love watching everything. I'm like, this is just so good.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I actually just finished the revamp. So I'm so excited. I'm going to post that like today or tomorrow. So like all upgraded videos. And like, it's so interesting because like when I make the course behind the scenes, it's people like you that I think of. I'm like, I'm making this video for Olivia. Like I literally think of like individual clients and I'm like, this person will benefit this person will benefit that. So thank you so much for just being such a superstar in our community, taking the time out of your day to come on the show and spread your voice. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you.